Alright, so this will be part 5 of my daughter's cancer journey. Please, if you like the videos, subscribe, share, whatever. I don't know if any of these stories, will help someone in need, someone who thinks like we did. But I can't rest until my daughter's story is out, because bad crap keeps happening to me, and I'm certain that a lot of people get bad luck, but it just seems like I'm always getting bad luck. I just feel like some days I just can't win for losing, so I've had this burning desire to discuss her story because of the things that we researched and uncovered, and I just feel like I can't keep quiet anymore. And trying to sit down and find the time just to finish my book, which I will do one day, but it's a little hard when you got a dog who needs your attention, a kid who needs your attention, and you got to take care of the house, go to work. I mean, these are all real daily life things that, just keep interfering with me actually being able to mentally sit down and get that book written. Plus, I don't know, sometimes I have a mental block when it comes to what would an author, a real author, an experienced author, how would they write it? So it's going to get done eventually, but in the meantime, I just can't sit back any longer and just keep all this information to myself. I'm still on a lot of the Hodgkin's lymphoma support pages, and it breaks my heart every time a new person has discovered that they've been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. While the person fighting the disease is very traumatic and we never understand exactly what they're going through, it is so not easy for a parent to watch a child suffer the consequences of this disease. And it'll be 6 years, October 24th, when my daughter passed away, and I'm still not okay. I still miss her every day, but I find new ways to cope with the loss, and telling about her story is one of them. So, in the last video I spoke about some things that happened with our life, just a series of events that we had 2 car accidents, and all the hurricanes and the super winds and rains and stuff that came through damaged our house, and the car was totaled. And while all those things were very tragic, I just want to make it clear that none of that stuff means anything to me since I lost my daughter. I could care less about materialistic things, but at that time frame and that moment, I worked so hard to get to a point where I could buy a house. My actual first house. I was 38 years old. My daughter was 19 when I bought it. It was like, I was so, you don't understand, it was like an accomplishment that I had been struggling for my whole life. And it was a real hard pill to swallow when I started losing little things, and then I now blame the house partly for the reason why my daughter got sick. But anyways, let me just go back a little bit. So after we had the accident and didn't have a vehicle, didn't know how I was going to get around, I finally did get approved to get a rental car And that helped me to, get to work still and get my daughter to treatments, but it still wasn't, I mean, the rental car was very temporary, but it was something. But right after that, the rain started pouring into our house from the attic. And I just thought, like, everything I've tried to do to save this damn house, what's the point anymore? If I'm just going to end up losing it because the modification didn't go as planned, I mean, realistically, I knew, like, I got the house with my fiance, but because we separated, I knew realistically I wouldn't be able to afford that house by myself. So I knew at some point, even if I had stayed in it and there was nothing wrong with it, I would have ended up losing it. But I was trying everything under the sun to keep saving this stupid ass house, and it didn't make sense. Like, looking back now, it did make sense, but like back then, that's all I felt I had. Like, I was working so hard to get somewhere, and once I did, it's like it's going to be ripped away from me. All my money was sunk into that house. Every dime I've ever had, saved up prior to the house and while I was living there, just went into the house. I was constantly fixing something. It was like I was Shelley Long and Tom Hanks in the Money Pit. Kept fixing all kinds of stuff in the house, and it just didn't matter. One thing got fixed, another thing broke. And I was like, I mean, I jumped hoops to try and, get the house modified because the, economy, the way it was back then, and the housing market crashing and everything, but we were living obviously above our means. But anyways, that, I'll never forget that day when we started hearing this rain. I thought, oh God, something in the bathroom broke. And my daughter was in the room next to me with her son, and she heard it, and she was like, oh my God, Mom, I thought a pipe in the bathroom busted. And we both come out of the bedrooms at the same time and just seen the rain coming straight in from our attic. I was just like, pack some bags, we gotta go. I put some buckets out to try and, collect the rain, because, at this point I don't even know why. There's water damage throughout the whole damn house, so, like, why would I even care to put buckets out? But I did. I cleaned all the water up and put the buckets out and opened my attic, seen the hole, and I was like, this just can't even be happening. This just can't even be happening. So we packed some clothes, went to my mom's house, but my mom had already had a full house. My sister and her 2 sons had moved back in with my mom, so us staying there wasn't probably going to be any kind of permanent situation. Plus, I'm not the favorite child, so that's neither here nor there, whatever. But I went to my mom's. I said it happened to be the weekend, and I said, Mom, it's Friday. After I got off work, I said, come on, you guys got to gather your things. We got to go. We're getting out of this house for the weekend. So I said, Mom, I think Brandy and I need to stay here. Do you mind? And she's like, no. Which I was totally shocked, taken back by that. But okay, I'm going to take it. But then come Sunday, she said, listen, Renee, you have to go. And I'm like, go where? She's like, well, I don't know, but you can't stay here. Well, everybody's got to get up and go to work on Monday. I said, and I don't? I mean, you act like I'm staying here because I freaking want to. I have no place to go. And she's like, you have a house. And I said, Mom, it was raining in my house. I can't go back there. Don't you understand it's making us sick? And at this point, when Brandy would walk in, her chest would rash all the way up. And it would itch real bad, and it would be bright red. But I was getting these real bad rashes on my legs, and I thought, God, And at one point I thought that we had bed bugs. I was chalking it up to bed bugs because my sister had a bout with them, and I thought for sure we somehow contracted the bed bugs, and they were in my house. So before we moved out, I had bought a steamer, a heating steamer, like a hot one. And I went through my whole damn house, took all the cloth, like curtains down, everything, bagged everything, washed everything. But I didn't put anything back up. I put them in bags and stored them. And then I steamed everything. Sofas, chairs, table, walls. You know, I'm OCD, so I steamed everything in my damn house. And then 3 days later, I repeated the process, because I didn't have $1,000 for the exterminators to come out. And not only that, I didn't want those chemicals in my house. I thought that, you know, with Brandy being sick with cancer, the last thing she needs is to be around any chemicals. But I just didn't have $1,000 for them to get rid of bed bugs. And not that we ever seen any. I was just a hypochondriac and thought, oh my God, let me take care of it right now. And so I tore the whole damn place apart. I hit all the beds. I went out and bought $80 per bed bug covers. After I steamed them, I put them in those enveloped bed covers, and I was like, don't none of y'all rip these. Because I couldn't afford to replace beds. And I feel like once they're in your bed, you can hang it up. But, yeah, I had about 3 beds I had to cover. That was a fortune. So, I did all of that, and we kind of just lived there without taking our clothes. I mean, we had just what we normally wore out. I didn't put anything back. Like, closets stayed emptied because everything was packed up. And I was just like, I don't know what else to do, but all that stuff in the house was probably ruined from me steaming stuff more, along with all the mildew in the damn house. Not to mention we had a couple of animals, and the damn dogs kept peeing in my house. I had to rip up all my carpets because the dog kept peeing in the house. So, of course, it got to a point where I said, don't y'all touch these dog kennels. They were not allowed out. Y'all cannot mess with the dogs. I will take them out in the morning before I go to work, and when I get home, I will take them out. If I find out y'all let these dogs out, it's going to be hell. I didn't really want the dogs because I didn't want my house destroyed. I had brand new carpet when we moved in. But, I felt like one of the things of being a homeowner is nobody could tell you whether you can have pets or not. And I thought at some point I would love to have a dog. But the dog we got did not break well with the house breaking. So, after I ripped the carpet up, the dog still had accidents on the floor, the hardwood floor. And so, you know, that seeped in, of course. And now I've gone over the hardwood floors, cleaning and covering it so that, you know, you couldn't smell it or whatever, but nothing I did seemed to work. But, my legs would rash up, Brandy would rash up, and my son would spike a fever sometimes for no reason, just spike a fever, and, next day he'd be fine. No cough, no sniffles, no nothing. It's the weirdest thing. And then a couple of times he had gotten strep throat. And the last time he got it with a rash. And I thought, well, that's weird. He's never had a rash with it before. Why would he have a rash with it now? So I associated that rash to be something from our house. But I could never put my finger on it exactly. So I was like, okay, well, if we didn't have bed bugs, and we didn't have, you know, other things I eliminated, then it has to be mold in our house, and that's what's causing all of our sicknesses. I had pneumonia. My son got strep throat 3 times. Once was not in that house, but twice he got strep throat. And he got fevers for no reason. My oldest son kept allergies, just always had allergies. And some days was worse than others because his eyes would water, nose would rock. Some days it was just like a stuffy nose and itchy eyes, but then there was days when he was really bad off, like he couldn't stop the running of the nose, the watering eyes. I mean, he had those issues, and then I would feel so fatigued. I mean, when we bought the house, I was 38. I would come home, and getting up the steps was like a chore and a half. I'm like, I go to these houses and clean and walk and run up these people's steps, but when I get home, I couldn't do it. And I remember I went out on a date one time, and I remember that we sat in a car for a minute before we went into the restaurant, and I just prayed, like, let this guy get out first so he can't see me get out of this car, because I felt like an old lady. Like, I struggled to get up out of the cars because I hurt so bad, and I didn't want him to see me struggling to get out of the car. So luckily for me, he got out first, thank God. But I was just like, it doesn't make sense why, when I get home, I'm constantly angry, which that could have been, I chalked it up to just stress of not being able to figure out how I'm going to support this house and the things that are in my life. I just thought, stress is probably causing a lot of this anger. And, I didn't want to believe that my house was making me sick. I really didn't. I tried for a long time to say, no, it's not mold. But anyways, when my mom said I had to go, and I was like, I don't know where the F you think I'm going. I'm broke. I spent all my money in my house. It's gone now. It's gone. We can't stay there, Mom. We're sick. She's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. You can't, all of you cannot stay here. And I was like, fine. Brandon, get Jaden, let's go. Reese, come on. And we left. And we went and stayed. I had enough money to stay in a motel room for one night. I didn't know what else I was going to do after that. I just knew that I didn't want to get back in the house. I didn't want my daughter back in the house. And I thought, well, maybe my mom will change her mind. Maybe. I mean, who else was going to call? I didn't have any other family member I could lean on. Nothing. I didn't even have friends I can lean on like that. So I just didn't know what to do. So the next night came, and I'm in a rental car because the car is smashed. My car is totaled. And it's an HHR, so I said, well, we'll just have to flip the seat down and sleep in the car. That's the only thing I can think of. And that's what we did for 3 nights. But at one point, I was so mad and angry. Like, I needed a break from the kids because they were constantly with me 24/7, it seemed like. Well, not the smaller kids, but my daughter was constantly with me, and I just needed a break. And I just said, you know what, I'm going inside. I'm sleeping inside tonight. Y'all can have the vehicle. Sleep wherever you want. And I went inside, and I woke up the next day. It was horrible. I felt so bad. I felt worse by staying in there all night. I was struggling to stay awake going down the road driving. That's how bad I felt. And I thought, I still, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's probably our house making us sick, but then maybe it's because I'm just so overwhelmed with life right now that maybe that's the reason why, I'm exhausted all the time. Because I felt like I lived in the damn car. Between doctor visits, hospital stays, treatments, going to work, taking the boys where they needed to go, I was always in the car. Always. So, needless to say, on about the 4th day, I guess it was, I went to my mom's. I said, look, because I started to worry that, the neighbors were going to see us sleeping in our backyard, that somebody would call the authorities on us. And I couldn't risk losing the kids. Even though they plucked my damn nerves sometimes, I just couldn't risk you know, the system getting involved. So I went to my mom and said, look, we got to stay here. I don't know where else we're going. I cannot keep sleeping in the backyard. And that's where we've been for the last 4 days, in the backyard. And Brandy slept on the back porch one night. She made a bed on the back. It's an enclosed back porch. I'm like, but we cannot keep doing that, Mom. It's not working, so we have to stay here. And so I forced my way back into my mom's house. Trust me, she didn't want me back. And especially now with, you know, a sick kid and 2 small children. That was not my mom's thing. But anyways, to get in there, get situated, and try to, you know, get life going from my mom's house. But it was less than anything but easy, because living with so many personalities under one roof didn't help. And what I needed to be was around humor. And I didn't mind my sister and her boys initially, because they would keep me laughing. They would keep me cracking up about stuff. And I needed that escape, because everything else in life was so serious all the time. But it came a point where I think, you know, I don't really want to put too much family drama out here, but I think there was a point where they wanted us gone, and my mom wouldn't tell us to leave, and I think they got mad. So they all started moving out one by one. But it is what it is. I mean, at this point, you know, y'all are not sick. Y'all capable of living on your own. I come back to my mom's house once over the last, 20 years? I don't know how long it's been since I've left our house. I mean, I've always tried to make a living for myself and be independent, but other family members have always lived off my mom. So at some point or another, they revert back to living off of her most of their lives. So it's not like I wanted to be back any more than my mom wanted me there, or they wanted me there, because they really didn't. But anyways, I had no choice. All of my money was gone into that house, and here I am with a rental car. I mean, I literally had nothing left besides my job and a rental car and my children at this point. And then my grandsons, which I couldn't even take care of. Like, I tried, but I was like, I just can't. I'm not physically able to take care of the baby. Brandy, you have to let the baby go live with the dad. There's no way I can do it. I'm not mentally, emotionally, financially capable of taking care of that little one. And I felt bad, but I was like, look, I couldn't even do diapers and throw up when my kids were little. Like, I was throwing up with them. Like, I'm just not good at that stuff. And I, like, seriously don't know that I have a great parent card, because I didn't have the guts to handle some of that stuff. And, well, I always changed my kids' diapers. It was sometimes very difficult, you know. But definitely when Brandy would throw up, I'd throw up with her. Sometimes when my youngest son would throw up and get sick, I don't know. It is what it is. I don't have the best of guts, so that's why I never wanted to be a doctor. Let's look at all that yuck. But anyways, that's only one reason. There was many reasons why. But anyway, so as we're living at my mom's house, you know, I feel like, you know, the house is gone. There's no reason for me to try and do one more thing to save it. Even though in the back of my mind I thought, well, what if, you know, we could just treat the mold and eventually go back. You know, like, there was still a part of me that hoped. And I wasn't cool with not knowing. So when I joined these mold support groups, somebody had told me about a guy and who did pro bono work, sometimes depending on the situation. His sister had passed away and they believed it was from toxic mold. So he heard a little bit about my story and he said, you know what, I'm going to come out and I'm going to look at your place and tell you whether or not you have mold. He's like, I'm not going to perform any tests because then I'd have to charge you. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to spend the money. I don't really have it. And if the house is donezo, we're just going to walk away from it. And he's like, all right. I said, I just have to know. And he's like, all right. So we went out there and he walked me through the house and he pointed out to the attic having white mold in it, which is considered aspergillus or penicillium. And don't quote me on that. I don't know if I'm butchering the names, but that's how I remember it. Between the bathroom and the kitchen, the bathroom leaked into the kitchen, and that was black, so Stachybotrys. Underneath the kitchen sink was Stachybotrys. In the basement was Stachybotrys. Underneath the stairwells, it was closed off to make it look like a storage room, but little did I know that the water had gotten that far over to that underneath the steps that we had stuff stored in there. Didn't even think to take it out and check to see if it was wet in there because we didn't think it went that far. We never thought the water damage went that far, but as soon as you open it, it hit you. And there was like a green felty something growing up the walls, and he said, oh, that's classic for cladosporium, I think. I'm not sure, but it's a green mold. And he said, that's just right up there with Stachybotrys. And your daughter sleeps down here? And I was like, yeah, this is her room. He's like, you should never, ever, ever, I don't care if the basement is above ground, never, ever make it as sleeping quarters. No one should live in their basement. And he said, this one especially since it's underground mostly. But definitely never ever make a basement bedroom for anyone on a permanent basis, because it's just not healthy for anyone to stay in a basement. So you people who rent apartments out of basements, be very, very careful. Not a good idea. But anyways, I knew at that point that, having the expert come in and tell me all that we had, it was time that, I had to just let go of the house. And then my mold support groups told me, you know what, don't bring any of your stuff. You have to walk away from it all. If you need to, take your pictures out of the picture frames and put them in sealed baggies and store them in a unit until you can, possibly clean them properly or something. And anything with a porous, basically they said don't bring anything. They said, if you have to bring your clothes, then you take them to the laundromat and wash them in ammonia, because ammonia will neutralize the mold out of it. And so I did that. I took a bunch of clothes to the laundromat and washed them in ammonia. And then I rewashed them in soap. That was a fortune. Then I took our clothes over to my mom's, and then I went out and bought a closet, makeshift closet, just to keep my son's clothes in, and just try to organize things a little bit better since we were all living in there so cramped. But eventually everybody moved out, and it was just down to my mom and the two boys. And I was doing my best at one point. So Brandy had about 3 or 4 more chemo treatments to go, and we just stayed with her original oncologist because what would be the point to switch now? She's almost done treatment. And so they had to do one more PET scan that they said they would do between the 11th and 12th chemo. And they did, and the results weren't good. That the ABVD didn't actually kill all of the cancer, which I had put a post up of the PET scans, so you can take a look at that too. So it started, I think, I'm pretty certain it started on her left side, but by the time she was done treatment, the 12 rounds of ABVD, it started growing on the right side. So this meant, so we went back to the doctors, and the doctor said, well, a group of us doctors sat around and talked about Brandy's case, and we feel it's in Brandy's best interest to go do the bone marrow transplant. And we were like, wait, what? So of course we asked questions, and I'm a question asker, so everything in my world needs to be specifically answered for me to feel comfortable, and I didn't get that from this doctor. And I liked him initially. I thought, wow, he's going to take Brandy's case on without us even having insurance right now. And, you know, he really seems to genuinely care. You know, I was learning to trust this doctor, even though I still didn't have a full trust in doctors or the pharmaceutical companies. I was learning to trust, but by this last appointment, I was livid. Because I said, hey, you know, clearly the problem stems from something that's a root cause, and you don't think that you can figure out what that root cause is? And I said, I can give you some ideas. I mean, our house had toxic mold, and we had to leave it, so maybe that's what caused Brandy's cancer. And he was like, well, perhaps, but we don't know. We don't know what causes it. And I thought, damn, that was an ignorant-ass comment, or response. And I said, well, you know, he gave us a little bit of information about the bone marrow transplant. And he said, so what you have now is refractory Hodgkin's, meaning that it's chemo-resistant, so you're going to have to go do bone marrow. And then that entails, originally, he said, this is how I explained it to us. You take the blood of yours out, they chemo and radiate it, and then they put it back in. But they didn't feel that Brandy would be a good candidate at this point to use her own blood, so they would have to use a donor blood, chemo irradiate, and put the donor blood into her body. And I thought, wow. And he's like, you have 1 to 100 days to find out if it works. And I said, well, what happens in the 100 days? And he's like, well, a lot of things can happen. You can have a bad reaction, you could, you know, and then he said death. There was a couple other things he said, but then he said death, and I thought, what? Wait, what? So in 1 to 100 days of doing bone marrow, you could die? And he's like, well, that doesn't normally happen, yada, yada, yada. And I couldn't get enough answers out of him, and I was just like, you could tell he was getting frustrated with me. And I was like, this just doesn't make sense to me to keep chemo and radiating her, whether it be her blood or her body. I don't understand why we're going to keep doing this. If this didn't work already, why do we believe that the chemo would work taking her blood out? And I mean, it just didn't make sense. I said, if anything, we need to build her back up. And I mean, you know, what else, like all these things that happened to her before, like the sebaceous cysts on her head, are they going to come back? Is she going to end up with shingles again? Is she going to end up with a cellulitis again? Like, what is going to happen during this time? I mean, how does it even work? He's like, look, I only know so much about it. You're going to have to make an appointment with John Hopkins. And the only place that does the transplant is in the city, Baltimore City. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable with being in Baltimore City every day. So, I don't know, like, what, you know. So he didn't have a lot more information, and he kind of got mad at me and basically was trying to get mad at me because his job was done. It didn't work. See ya. Be gone. It's how I felt he made us feel. And I was floored. Like, this doctor was so sweet, nice, and caring, and then all of a sudden, boom, just get out my door? Like, this is how you treat your patients? When you can no longer do anything for them? I mean, that is so mind-blowing to me. I could not believe how nasty he was on that last appointment. So, we get back and we tell my mom, well, they said it's refractory and the Hodgkin's lymphoma is still there. She had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I should clarify, and it was still there. And they want her to do bone marrow. And Brandy chimes in, I'm not doing it. And my mom says, you need to listen to your doctors. You need to, da-da-da-da, and just started rambling on. And I was like, no. Why in the hell would we do this? Mom, we've already listened to them, and they didn't cure her. As they promised, it was 80 to 95% chance. Now that she has refractory Hodgkin's, it's a 50-50 that bone marrow will even work. She kind of took back to it. She's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah. The chances of her surviving have gone way down now. And then not only that, but you have 1 to 100 days to find out whether or not you're going to die from doing the bone marrow. I said, this is all scary shit. So we just took all this in today. I said, we're not making any rash decisions right now, but we definitely need to think about this a little bit more. Now, mind you, I'm still researching stuff, and I'm still trying to figure it all out, but I'm buying left and right anything holistic I possibly can. I try anything at this point. And I said to my daughter, I was like, look, I know it's been an overwhelming day, and I know that our emotions are off the chart, and we need to kind of take a break from this, and let's talk about this a little bit later after we calm down and stuff. My daughter had it in her head right from Jump Street she was never going to do bone marrow. Never. If the ABVD didn't work, she wasn't going to do bone marrow. It just wasn't going to happen. So I started researching everything I could, and I was like, oh, well, you know, the Gerson therapy is juicing 13 times a day, so I bought a juicer. Expensive-ass juicer. I tried to buy organic fruits and juice the shit out of them and try to get her to do these, and it was impossible. The more I researched, the more I bought. I bought a shit ton of vitamins, supplements that she could take to try and build up her immune system. But one I found particularly, truly mind-blowing was our secondary defense is B17. It's a vitamin, okay? The only thing this vitamin does is create a cyanide towards cancer cells. It does not harm any other cells in the body. And I thought, oh, okay, so let me go to the store. And I mean, I rushed right out and went to the organic store to buy this B17. You would have thought I was trying to buy illicit drugs. That the look that this lady gave me. I said, she's like, ma'am, can I help you with something? I said, yeah, I'm looking for B17, but I don't seem to find it anywhere on these shelves. Can you lead it to me? Show me where it's at? And she was like, B17? You know that's illegal to buy here. And I was like, what? What? Why? It's a vitamin. She's like, it acts like cyanide. You can't buy that here. I don't think you can buy it anywhere in the United States. And I was like, are you serious? She's like, yeah, it's considered cyanide and you can't buy it. Like arsenic type cyanide. And I said, are you sure? So I had to go back and research this some more. And sure enough, it's outlawed in the United States. I couldn't believe this. I was like, are you serious? A vitamin that only kills and acts like cyanide towards cancer cells you cannot get in the United States. What? So here I am trying to find where I can buy it online from another country, or and do I even trust it? I don't. But at this point, I'm going to try everything. So I had to do some reviews and check to see who recommended what B17 and from what company and yada yada yada. And I was like, man, this is a lot. So I said, you know what? B17 is in apricot seeds. I went back to the organic store and said, hey, I don't see any apricots here. Y'all got any? And she's like, I didn't really know what they look like because I don't eat fruit. I don't like fruit. I don't eat it. So I didn't really know what they look like. And she's like, yeah, that's not in season right now. She's like, and I was like, well, can you tell me, do they come with the, are they completely, when you get them, are they completely together? And I guess it was an odd question to ask her. And she's like, I think so. But when they're in season, yeah, I think they're, why? And I said, well, I just want to make sure that the seeds are still in there. And she's like, oh, yeah, no, they depitted. I'm like, what? She's like, most of them come depitted. I said, why? She's like, I don't know. And she didn't even have a clue. So I'm sitting there schooling her on what I found out and telling her that the apricot seeds have one of the fruits that have the highest B17. And I was like, I cannot believe that I'm going through all this. Jumping hoops trying to find one damn vitamin that's been outlawed. So, after that, I went back and told Brandy what I discovered. And I said, look, I think what we should do is at least make an appointment with John Hopkins and hear what they got to say. Maybe this doctor just, because he was so nasty, maybe he didn't really know everything. Maybe we should just at least go listen to him. That's not going to hurt anything. And we can at least decide after that appointment what to do. But in the meantime, I'm still going to buy you stuff that you need to try, and I need you to try it. And she's like, I will, Mom, I will. But I kind of knew in the back of my mind. I mean, I was finding some of the vitamins, and I was giving her a bunch of them. Probably like about 20-some vitamins a day. And I'd find them in her drawers and stuff that she didn't even take them. Of course, she wasn't juicing, so that was a waste on the money on that juicer. I still had the juicer. And mind you, it wasn't easy to juice 13 times a day. I can't even drink 13 times a day regular stuff. There's no way I can juice 13 times a day. And then Brandy wouldn't stay away from the sugars. I mean, she wouldn't change her diet at all. She tried sometimes, but living at my mom's house, too many people ate out and come over and sit at my mom's and eat. And Brandy loved food. I mean, we all love food. And when she could eat, she wanted to eat. So it was just not, I still felt like I was fighting a losing battle, but I wasn't going to give up because I was no quitter. So I did end up buying the B17 off of I couldn't even tell you where now, but off of a website. And everything that I bought for Brandy, I did it first. I tried it first. I did it first. I said, if it's holistic, it's natural, I'm not scared. I'll take it first. And so that's what I did. Everything. So I took the B17 first. I took everything that I tried, I took first. But there's still some more things that I want to tell you about, but I'm running low on minutes here. So if you like my content, please like and subscribe, and that helps me move up the chart so other people who have cancer issues or stories maybe could learn something from these videos. Please like and subscribe, share, whatever you got to do. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Stay tuned.